Second countdown. Welcome. This is Bart Sharp of Becoming Quantum Consciousness at the United Public Radio Network, UNPRN, 107.7, and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3, all located in the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. It's probably all sunny there today, as we are in Austin, Texas, and it is all mucky, icy, frozen, and everybody's staying at home and having this wonderful day inside.
Mm-hmm.
And my name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious. And today we have a very special guest of Linda Galvan, who is a transformative coach, facilitator, spirit guide, intuitive channel, healer, woman teaching workshops and classes all around the world. She all began in Austin, Texas, where I have been friends with her during this time. And we kind of started out in the metaphysical community a really long time ago. It always brings up the question when I think of Linda is, how do you get out of being a frustrated psychologist and marriage and parent and start to create a life that you love? Start to do something that is meaningful and worthwhile and still be able to pay the bills so you can support your daughter and give her a normal, productive childhood experience. And this describes Linda. And when I always think about that situation, because I knew her when she started this journey, and she was really in the question of, if I'm supposed to step out into the unknown and jump off the cliff, how are you going to help me? I can't do this alone. I need my spirit guides. I need somebody to be a part of this experience for me. I will follow. I will do. And I just need that special guidance of how to do it. And off she's gone. She has gone from being just a local Austin intuitive and phenomenon and psychic and spiritual teacher to something that is all over the world. She connects with all kinds of people now. And we're really blessed to have her on this show today. And today's topic is living a transformed life. And so I give you Linda Galvan.
Oh, thank you so much, Bart, for that sweet introduction. Yes, we've known each other a long time, and you've seen lots of transformations of me over the many years. So I've been actually actively doing this work as a spiritual intuitive, as a facilitator that assists mainly women and, yes, some men in transformation. And it's been about 12 years. I've worked with over 2,000 to 3,000 people over these years and assisting them on their journeys as well. And I felt that, I had to go through that journey myself first so I could know what it was like to go into those dark nights of the soul of, not knowing which way was up and really facing deep fears around money, deep fears around just survival. How am I going to make it? Walking away from my old life completely and stepping into something that was completely unknown, it requires a lot of courage. So when I was sitting here thinking about this topic of, living a transformational life, what does that really mean? And there's a lot of people in the world right now since 2020 who are being called now. I think
Mm,
there was a group of us early on that were called to
yeah,
really transform our lives and be some of the early pioneers, right? So when COVID hit, I was already working from home for 10 years. So it was not a change for me in that respect. Um, but what I have noticed that since this very powerful shift has happened on the planet, we are all being called to transform our lives in very profound ways.
yeah.
And so when I sat with this and I asked myself, living the transformational life, what is that really? And then I realized, thinking back to my childhood and moving forward in time to now, I realized that I was one of those souls that never really quite fit in. And I think there's probably people listening to this radio show that probably can say, yeah, I was kind of that person too. You just didn't quite fit in the family. You were odd with your friends. It's like you were the weird one out. And I tended to always be that. And I was always from a young age the kind of person who did not like conforming. I really didn't, I did it because, I had to fit into the system, but I really did not like it. I resisted it the whole time that I would conform. I would just be in this attitude
Mm,
about it. And I realized that those of us that are called to live a transformational life are people who never really did fit in. We never did.
yeah.
And we also didn't want to fit in. Maybe we tried at certain ages in our life to fit in, but it just kind of never worked out. And so I realized that, people who are here to live these types of lives are here to not fit in. That is the whole purpose, is to actually live a life that is filled with transformation, a life that is transformative. So, coming into this world, not to fit in, not to conform to this world, but coming into this world to transform it. And I know very clearly that that is my purpose. I am here to transform this world. So that means that I have to be in full alignment with where I am conforming versus transforming. So it's a question now that I've had to live more deeply. And this summer, around July, August, Spirit, my guide, said, it's time for you to leave Texas. And I'm like, what? I grew up here. I was born here. I'm not someone who tends to move around. I've been in
Oh,
Texas.
I'm always in that question about in the heat of summer. Maybe it's time for me to leave Texas, but yeah, I think yours is a little bit different. If you live in Texas, or particularly Austin, Texas, by the summertime, it's become so hot and so relentless that a lot of us are starting to think of cooler temperatures every day.
Yes. Yes. So I was a bit taken aback by that because my daughter was graduating from high school and that phase was completing for me. And it was very quick. It was like, you need to leave now. And I'm like, okay, but where do I go? So, one morning I wake up and I just get this awareness to call a particular friend who lived in Colorado. And she actually is creating a beautiful place for women to come and transform. And so she allows you to rent out cabins on the land that she and her husband have created so that you could have some time to do your transformational processes. So I thought maybe that's the first place to start. So that kind of began my spiritual walkabout this year. That has been very transformative. So I don't really actually have a home base at this time. I'm traveling different places. I'll be going to India on the 8th, I think, when this airs. And who knows what's going to go on from there. But it truly is about living that life where you have to be in deep trust. You have to be very courageous and you have to listen to the guidance and then move from the place of that guidance, and know that you're being taken care of and that the universe has your back. So you asked earlier how I early on made that jump from working in the real world into this world. It was a tough one, but the universe kind of almost pushed me out. I became so miserable in the job I was in that it literally, I wasn't really given a choice because the misery was so intense that I just
Mhm.
said, I have to leave. I cannot continue doing this. And it wasn't the work itself. I loved the work. It was really the politics around it that was just, it wasn't aligned for me any longer. So I had to jump out of that world and then trust.
So often when we're in that predicament and it becomes so heavy, either we break into something new or it breaks us, and
Yes,
we get sick or we develop, strange neuroses or degrading type of habits, just as a way to distract us from the pain that
right.
we're contending with every day. And so you still have a choice. I know you're saying that, well, I didn't have a choice, but lots of people choose that differently, and finding that courage is incredible to do so.
And
To
I feel that that experience of finding that courage was a frequency upgrade. And so living a transformational life is constantly being willing to have these frequency upgrades happening in your life.
So, what is
So
a
that you're
frequency upgrade like for you?
so, giving an example of, let's just say relationship, because that's been it's a big topic.
Well,
People in
everybody has
relationships.
an area that they're limited, whether it be relationships, money, spirituality, or health.
Yes.
Hard to
So
get
any
all
of those.
four happening strong at the same time.
Right. So, so let's say that, for me, when I went through the divorce and I went through this dark night of the soul, I had to go inwards to look at my part that I played so that I could own the parts that I played in that particular marriage not continuing. I don't want to call it a failure because nothing's truly a failure. Everything is a learning. And so from that, I realized that, okay, there's ways I could have made different choices. That requires a certain level of consciousness upgrade. So all of a sudden, if you're willing, you're able to then see things from a new, higher perspective. If you're willing to ask the question to the universe, what part did I play? In this situation so that I can learn from it. You have to be willing to at least ask the question. And when
Yes,
you ask the question, the universe will bring the answer and that upgrades you. That upgrades your frequency, your awareness, your perspective, your wisdom, you know, um, begins
yeah.
to ascend from the place where you once were. So if I look back to where I
Well,
was when I was married and where I am now, those are completely different people.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
completely
And
different people.
also the components that you start to see the story that you started to play and the humility of your mistakes
Yes.
and that situation. I don't think until you see that, the upgrade just doesn't ping or change. Uh, there has to be these other components in between the beginning and the upgrade.
Exactly. Yes, there definitely does. And, sometimes you can resist for a long time in those moments. I see, like, my clients, they'll just be resisting because they just, they wanna stay in their anger, they wanna stay in their victimhood, they wanna stay in that state of, "It was the other person's issue or problem," "I did everything I could,"
So how do
and
you
they don't
contend
wanna
with
look
that?
at the parts that
I
are
mean,
there.
we both do energy work. I do shamanistic work, and Linda does a spiritual intuitive guide, and I've experienced her sessions, which are quite wonderful. Uh, and she is truly more of a guide that helps people see those openings, whereas I'm more of a plumber that just goes right into what that is, and then so it's a very different approach
Yes.
with them. And what do you do when you have that person that is repetitive in something like blaming another person?
So usually when I'm working with a client privately, I always, of course, because I'm a channel and I listen to divine guidance, I only allow divine guidance to come through in those moments. So
Mhm.
when divine guidance is present, there is a higher frequency already present in the field of the session that actually starts to soften the client so that they're more open to hearing. So I am very direct and honest with clients. So if I am noticing resistance, if I am noticing these things with someone or repetitive type of resistance, I'll just pause. I'll say, are you noticing right now the energy of resistance that's coming up in you around this
Mm.
topic that we've addressed several times? Do you notice what's going on? Can you tell me where in your body you're feeling it? So I help them to go into their body to notice where it's happening and to just come into awareness of it. Because sometimes they're actually in such a rote programming, they don't even notice that they've gone there. So
Yeah, yeah, it's like a chain of events that just trigger, and one link in the chain connects to the other.
exactly. And so pausing and helping them to just be in awareness, but I come from a place of no judgment. So they don't have to defend themselves with me. It's more of just, isn't this curious? Do you notice this resistance here? And is this something that you're willing to release or at least let go of in some way or some part of it to move forward from this? Because it seems that this is the wall you keep hitting up against that's keeping you from the intention or the goal that you're wanting to create in your life. So when they make the connection of, oh, this level of resistance, victimization, etc., is what's keeping me stuck. That's why I can't have what I want. All of
Mhm.
a sudden, they're like, "Okay, then maybe I should look at this."
Yeah,
But some people, decide they're gonna go all the way and work through all those resistances and victimization type, attitudes, and other people, they may not be quite ready yet, and
yeah.
so I may not see them for a while
Well,
until they're ready to come back and address those things.
it's such an interesting part of, people who do therapy or do work with people like us, that is a form of therapist, although we're not therapists
Mhm.
by any
Right.
means. Let's just make that clear.
Right.
Uh, the word blame, it's like, what side are you on blame? Are you blaming others for
Mhm.
whatever the situation is? And then it's almost like if they change, I'm going to get better. And then there's the other side of like, no, any situation that there's a problem, I always have a part. And
Mhm.
can I look in that with some vulnerability and curiosity? And yeah, the pain's gonna show up, or the humiliating feelings of whatever I experience are gonna show up.
Yes.
And, what a wonderful way to have that embraced with a higher source that you seem to be connected to.
Yes, I feel like it really makes the client feel safe because that's the most
Mhm.
important thing when you're working with very deep, unresolved or embedded issues or challenges in a person's life. They need to feel very safe. They need to feel that they are being held. They need to feel that they can trust the person who's working with them in order to really transform, because it is a very powerful act of courage for a client to come to me and do this deeper work, because they kind of have to, lay themselves bare in certain ways. I Because I can already see it anyway.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and they have to be willing to allow me to see the truth of things, to assist them in moving into higher alignment with a higher truth than
and
where
it
they've been stuck.
it sounds like much like, it's, well, I've done, different forms of therapy with a counselor, and, of course, they're guiding me to discover these truths. They
Mhm.
never tell me the truth, or they never tell me what my limitation is and what
Mhm.
that's about,
Right.
which is kind of what I do as a shaman. I just feel the energy. But with yours, it sounds like you have more of a counselor slash therapeutic approach without being a therapist.
Right.
Starting to see it as a joke, that you help them find and discover what that is.
Mhm. And I do use the intuitive skills that I have, because sometimes the things that need, addressing are things that typically can't be addressed in traditional counseling. This is going deep into the origin of, generational imprints,
Mhm.
DNA, imprints, things along those lines that are from other lifetimes or past generations, so my intuitive energy brings that forward so that we can see this is the origin of where this issue began. It didn't begin usually in the person's life. It
Yeah.
sometimes some of these patterns began lifetimes before, in generations before. And no matter how much counseling they do on themselves personally, you can't ever get to that if you're only focusing on you in this lifetime. You're missing whole generations where the pattern may have been created. So I go to the origin of the pattern and we clear it at that level so that then their here and now is functioning without that patterning in their system.
It's like exploring the seen and unseen worlds. The seen
Yes.
world is reliving the actual experiences and knowing what happened to you in this sequence we call from birth to current age. The unseen world are these other factors that could be past lives, generational, ancestral. Um, I like to call it the family constellation,
Mm-hmm.
where we see things going back through fathers and mothers and grandmothers that hold an energy. And then
Yes.
there's some other things that go beyond those explanations. Those are some of the
Yes.
more typical ones that we both explore when we work with people.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So this is how I feel I differ from a typical counselor. So my background is in the traditional psychological world. However, I left that world because I just felt that that just wasn't right aligned for me anymore. I wasn't getting joy and happiness from it. I thought this is not the right path for me. That was one of my other transformational moments where I had to walk away from, my grad program because I
Mm,
said, nope, this isn't for me anymore. So I've had many of these transformational moments where I had to walk away um,
yeah,
and, step into something completely different and new. So
it
I'm
is.
hearing, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, so I'm hearing that for all of us who are being called to live these beautiful transformational lives, it really does take this sense of knowing that the universe absolutely is supporting you, because living the transformational life is helping to transform everyone around you that you're connected with
Mhm.
in all kinds of ways. Um,
And if we listen to our heart, we would know that message that we're all connected. And the whole tendency of life in general is in an upward spiral.
yes.
So, yes, we are being supported by something greater. It's our mind and ego that keep it linear, that focuses on the negativity,
Hmm.
which has a valid point. And it's good to know that. However,
Yes,
we don't have to allow it to dictate our decisions.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's such a wonderful balance, and I think some of the things when I first got inundated with the new age community, it all seemed a little, not based in something, real or grounded or
Mhm.
practical. It's
Right.
like, "Just feel the light and you'll feel it better." And I'm like, "No, I need to really confront my anger and deal with those issues like in a therapeutic approach." But, both points of view, as I've learned through the years, is very valid and
Mhm.
necessary if you wish to grow to a higher place. We
Yes.
we we need to visualize angels around us and see what that feels like and see what it'd be like to have spirit beings move into our body and through our hearts or into our third eye or down in our second chakra to help energize something that can often feel dense, complacent, and not moving at all.
Yes.
We do all of
Absolutely.
these exercises, and first it seemed a little bit strange and wacky and not really founded in something practical,
Yes,
but it starts to vibrate you differently.
it does. And
And
I
so
feel what you're speaking to is about embodiment. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, way back, it was all about, get out of your body and go into spirit and vibrate at this higher level, and so we were all, living from, let's say, our third eye up in the metaphysical world. Everybody's just kind of floating outside their bodies and, on tiptoes, not really grounding that powerful conscious energy into the body. Now, in this new energy, this new fifth dimensional energy, we have to be in our body fully. All of our powerful light body energy and consciousness needs to be truly anchored in all the way to the feet, down to the earth chakra energy, so that we can really bring this high frequency through the body and feel it, not so that it's an experience that is actually physical, not just, in the mind.
Yep.
Because you can only go so far with the mind. After that, the mind becomes a block and a limitation, and you have to transcend beyond that in order to really allow these higher divine frequencies to flow through you by moving the mind out of the way. And this is how I do my work. I have to move my mind out of the way and allow the divine frequencies to flow through in order for the transformational energy to be present for
Mm.
the group or the person or whatever it is I'm doing.
And something you said to me of what you tell your students is take it home,
Mhm.
the energy home, right into your second chakra
Yes.
and
Yes.
vibrate it there. It's kind of like, I don't want to call it, in some ways, it's a grounding point. I want to say it's the first reference point. But
Mhm.
when you're starting to learn the spiritual journey, mastering your second chakra is essential. And some people have it. I mean, I always felt like you had it. Kind of you have more natural abilities with it than I ever did. I had to go back to school and learn what that's about. Whereas you always seem to have this energy that everything came into your second first and foremost.
Mhm. Yes, it's so interesting, when you mentioned chakras. So, a message that's been coming through right now from guidance is that every single person on the planet right now would benefit from focusing on balancing their energy centers, their chakra centers on a daily basis. And the reason why is that we're literally being bombarded with some very incredible high frequency energy on a daily basis that is kind of knocking us out of whack energetically, because our bodies are trying to integrate all of this high energy. So I almost see the chakras sometimes when I'm looking at a client, they're, instead of being in alignment, one's over here, one's over there. They're kind of a
Mhm.
zigzag. And so the guides are saying that, coming into balance and alignment with your energy centers. And of course, as you mentioned, the second chakra is a very important um, place, especially when I work with women, to help them step into their feminine power. It's in the womb space. So, it's the Shakti energy. It's that powerful divine feminine energy that when you drop into the womb space energy, you can actually feel your whole presence in a room, and others can feel it too. Of course, men can do that too, but men tend to have a more natural, grounded, root energy in general. A lot of men do.
I, I
Um,
I would set to say I disagree with you. I think it's uh, and maybe that's the comparison because men feel men differently, or
mm,
we thought we perceive the opposite gender differently than our
yes,
own gender.
yes,
Because I just it's just I think that's an interesting phenomenon you bring up.
yes.
Uh, but it is different. I mean,
Mhm.
women bring things out. They receive things in their womb, and it's a vessel
Yeah.
where, and I'm just talking about, 101 body dynamics and anatomy.
Mhm, mhm.
Women receive, that's what their yoni's all about. Men
Yes,
give, and that's
yes,
what their lingam,
yes,
think of a more uh, better word that's not abrasive, but nothing comes up. So we'll say lingam, it always gives out. It's the sword that goes in,
yes.
and it's always giving. And I
Mhm.
think it's really important for people to kind of tune into that most obvious
Yes.
energetic dynamics that we all are. 'cause
Right.
I'm always astounded how women receive and give in, and it's just like, duh, that's their whole natural order, and men, I think, are really satisfied, and most men don't. I don't say most, a lot of men do not get this, but
Right.
men feel really good when they give and they help others feel more complete and whole.
Yes.
Think it's our whole natural tendency. We're not all of these destructive critters that tear everything up all the time. Um,
Right.
we are great builders and givers, and
Yes.
I know I feel much better when I do all of that type of stuff for, others and humanity and
Mhm.
my cats and my house. That seems to be my purpose, and I think it's all connected to anatomy.
Yes. Well, I have to agree that the energetic of, being a giver as a masculine, when a man is really connected to that truth about him, it does feel good. Just as
But
a woman, when she connects to her true receiving energy and she allows herself to receive, it's a very natural, feeling, relaxing energy. So when the masculine and feminine are in the presence of each other, allowing these natural energies to be there of allow the masculine to give, and then the feminine allowing herself to receive. The problem I have noticed a lot in the work that I've done with clients is that imbalance because of traumas that have occurred in early life,
mhm,
where women may not feel, I can speak mainly for women, they don't always feel safe to receive. And so they do all kinds of controlling type of behaviors, etc., to kind of push away and become the givers, because a giver is actually someone who wants to control. The giving energy is a more of a controlling energy. And so sometimes women feel more safe being a giver than a receiver. And so a lot of times when I'm working with women, we have to look at that polarity imbalance in them
mm,
and try to find the balance. Because, yes, of course, we all have both the masculine and feminine, the giving and receiving energy within us that we need to balance.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes, because of early trauma and lack of just general security in life, a woman will do all kinds of this controlling, giving energy instead of the surrendering, receiving energy. So when a woman's in her true, natural, feminine energy and flow, her life's easier. She's happier. She's more grounded. More things come to her more easily because she's in her natural energetic flow, just as a man is when he's in his giving energy. He's in his magic place.
yeah, and that vessel inside of woman grows it, but also it's just shared with the man, and so it's all reciprocated. And
Yes.
even if you're not with a partner, you can, when you just honor your own consciousness about that, you will receive from various other things, and it's not in a partnership or coupling way.
Yes.
Um, for example, I do sacred tours to Southwest France, and the more that I give to that consciousness and excitement of what France is, and that higher yearning to be in a more expanded place, I'm actually kind of giving that consciousness and that energy, and I'm talking about it, and I'm
Mhm.
helping other people have that experience. Something comes back to me,
Hmm.
something of a fulfillment that really generates everything that I am. I think when people think about wholeness, a lot of times their first reaction is that I'm more whole, then I'm going to be able to receive and create whatever. I might even get a brand new car out of this. However, it's more that wholeness that you just walk with that
Yes.
we're really looking for.
Right.
That appreciation and that zen of the moment.
Yes. That is beautiful. And I do feel that that's what we're being called more to, transforming into having that balance within us where we do feel whole on all levels. But that's a spiritual journey to
It
get to that
certainly is.
place.
It certainly is. It's so amazing, and I think with your work in particular, it's you're guiding so many people to find that opening in themselves so they can walk in that independence and
Yes.
autonomy.
Yes. And it's so interesting. You would think that everyone wants this, but in truth, the majority does not. Because it's really scary. It brings up a lot of fear to be like
Yeah,
to realize you have that much powerful freedom to create your life the way you choose. In fact, many people feel safer being caught in the, little cage of everyone else tell me what to do, because then I don't have to take responsibility and then I can play victim. That seems to be the easier route that many people want to take. It's those who choose to live the transformational life who say, no, I want to break out of the cage. I want to really feel my expansiveness and my freedom. And yes, it's scary because there's big unknowns there, but
mhm,
I'm willing to do that. I want to do that. I want to really see how much I can create, a life that really is aligned for me, that brings me that bliss, the happiness, the abundance. So I feel that people who choose to live these more transformational lives, they're willing to break out of the cage and the predictableness of, a 3D life and say, nope, I'm ready for the adventure. And so
yeah.
truly transformational living is about being in alignment and in excitement with the adventure, saying yes to life in all its forms.
And it's so funny that we may think about something like, well, if I jump into a relationship, that is a demonstration that I'm a more whole person. But no, there's no particular action or status that we live that exemplifies that. You can be totally alone
Mhm.
and be evolving all along. It always begins with something internal that feels complete inside of you, and it's almost like your own personal gift that you get to internally wear.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not always feels great. It has
Right.
all kinds of stuff, with it. Like yesterday, I mean, I spent 2 days. It's been, of course, ice storm in Austin. So I spent 2 days. This is the day three, or it's all getting murky. And kind of just being myself and working with people over Zoom and doing this stuff, but not really connecting with people. And I went into a very lonely place.
Yes.
And, to me, that was my whole psyche just saying, okay, there's something else you need to tune up that just got triggered by that loneliness. Let's deal with it. And of course, I felt it in my body and just basically paid attention to that feeling of shame that was
Mm.
for being alone.
Yes.
And that went to loneliness. And once it had a new energy, 20 minutes later, I'm back to creativity.
Yes.
It's just funny how you never really get away from all of it, but you never get really stuck into that stuff either. You can
Mhm.
transition.
Yes. And I feel that's an important key, tool, spiritual tool that everyone needs to have in this day and age, is you need to have some simple little tools that will help you in the moment to transform something that, isn't working for you. And so I feel that, if we can start teaching our children from a young age some simple little transformative tools so that when they get stuck in an emotion or a feeling or something that's not aligned or that gets them off, they can just apply a particular transformational tool and it's going to shift them back into alignment. Just like what you just described was a
Yeah.
transformational tool you use personally that helps you get back into alignment, and then you can go on with your day, your week, etc., instead of being out for the next week, 2, 3 months, years. Some people, they just go into these misaligned states, and then they can't function.
Yeah.
So if they have the transformational tools to be able to just implement in the moment, then they can begin to shift their energy and their frequency, and then all of a sudden they feel better after a couple of minutes. I tell
Mm.
people, you just have to be willing to implement, you
Right,
know,
yeah.
a simple
So,
tool.
we're both, you know, I'm gonna say Tim the Tool Man from a popular show. We all have our tools. Um, let's both just share a tool that we use to help
Okay,
us.
that's
Uh,
beautiful.
I have one if you,
No, you can start.
okay. I'll give you some time because I don't
Yeah,
wanna surprise you with something. Of course, this show is all about surprises, and that's the beauty of a conversation, and particularly with you, Linda, because I know you're always on it. I've known you too long. Uh, there's nothing I can say that would likely surprise you, uh, or really offend you, really.
right.
Um, so, one that I'm always using, and this is an access consciousness tool,
Mm,
uh, is what is right about this that I'm not getting. If I have a problem, uh, that's what I always ask. Even if it's something really simple, like I can't find my keys, I ask that, and all of a sudden, I turn around and I'm looking straight at my keys. Of course, that was a simple one, but it really is a principle that question opens up a part of our unconscious to contribute to the conscious. And when it does, all of a sudden I know where it is. And I would use it maybe if I was working on a very deep issue. And this could
mhm.
also be with a client.
Yes,
I say that question and something always pops up
yes.
because our bodies know so much about what the answers that our
Mhm.
minds are trying to find. And intellectually, we're trying to put it into words, but we can't find the right words or knowing to express what our body always knows. What is right about this that I'm not getting kind of links that together.
I love that. I love access consciousness, and I love the questions because I actually use some of access consciousness tools in my work too, and I love
Mm.
that question. That I mean,
And
just the minute you said it, I could feel energy shifting already.
mm.
Very powerful. I love that. Well, I've got so many tools. Let's see, which one do the guides want me to share today for all those that are listening? So, okay. So usually, when I'm working with clients, something that I'm always making my clients aware of, and I use this for myself as well, is an incident happens. Something happens. It could be an argument. It could be someone was rude to you, or it could be, some kind of struggle at work, anything along those lines. I usually first will tell the client, okay, you in that moment have to just literally just pause because we can go straight into our wounding and we react from our wounding when there's an
Mhm.
event that happens that upsets us. So I'll say, okay, you just need like a half a second pause to just go, okay, I'm not going to react from my wounding. That's the first thing you have to do. You have to catch yourself before you go in to your typical reaction. And you just have to step back for a moment and you have to ask yourself. And so I have my clients ask the question, what about this situation is trying to teach me something? What about this
Mm.
situation is trying to show me something about myself that I'm not aware of? So usually when something, you know, smacks you out of the blue or something like that, it's because universe, spirit's trying to get your attention in some way to notice something that you're asleep about it. You're just asleep. You don't see it. So what I'm hearing that's very important for people is just to take that pause and instead of immediately going into your reaction from your wounding, step back and say, okay, what about the situation? What's the message for me? First, get the message for yourself. Why this possibly happened? What's the lesson? What is the thing you're needing to see about yourself? Instead of focusing immediately on the other situation or person, you go inwards first. And then you just kind of get curious. You just kind of start asking on what am I supposed to be understanding about the situation? You know, what part of this do I need to own? What part of this did I create?
Mhm.
That etc. And what that does is it starts to actually shift your frequency because you're moving into higher consciousness and higher awareness in that moment
Mm.
because you're really being curious. And in those moments of curiosity, grace comes in. I just see this all the time. Just grace comes in and shows you what that lesson was because you're asking sincerely. Instead of reacting from the wound, you're asking sincerely, okay, this was really unpleasant. This actually hurt me. And what is this situation? What's here for me? What's the gift that is here
Yeah.
for me? And that actually starts to open up big, huge doors of awareness sometimes for you. And you start to realize, wow, that particular situation reminds me when I was 5 years old and my father did this or my mother did that, or, a teacher, blah, blah, blah. And you start to see where the wounding came from that created that situation that spirit's trying to show you that wants to heal. Because all these situations are here to help you grow and heal. Every situation, no matter what it is, good, bad, ugly, it's all
Amen.
here for your transformation. All of it is. So if
Mhm.
you decide to come meet life from that attitude of everything around me, everything in front of me, behind me, above me, below, everything is here to transform my life in a more aligned way, moving me towards more truth, moving me towards more consciousness, moving me towards a higher spiritual perspective. Everything is. If you
You
come with
know,
that
I
attitude,
I never was a believer in that God, like, played us like a chessboard, like yeah, like, I did the wrong thing, so, you know, God decided to have the knight knock me off the table.
right?
Never really bought that.
Right.
However, to me, this is more about how a higher power works,
Mhm.
that
Yes.
we're all there, and and it's not about punitive. I mean, the person that punishes us is ourself.
Yes.
And then we're surrounded by all of these other opportunities to grow and change if we know how to access it. And if we
Exactly.
decide to access it and be
Yes.
in that state of being, that it starts to show up. And it never shows up a lot. Well, not say never. And it's often does not show up in our time, but it does show up.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. It does show up. Well, this is making me feel like there might be a little transmission that wants to come in around this, living
Oh,
your life from this place of
mm.
realizing everything is here to transform you, if you're open to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you have in mind?
Okay. So, these transmissions of light started happening for me, I think maybe at first they were more like channelings in
Mhm.
the early years of my career. And
Okay.
so around maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started noticing that the channeling had a different, frequency flavor to it. And in the
Mm,
last 3 years, it's become more potent. And so what the guides started to share with me is that I had risen to such a frequency that I could bring in light codes through these words, through the words, through the
mhm,
sound of my voice. Light codes come in, and these transmissions are specific to the people listening.
mm.
So everyone receives something different from the transmission. Even though I'm speaking the same words, everyone's gonna receive underneath the words exactly what they need.
So this is gonna be a transmission that is gonna be sent out to everybody that's listening and tuning in and probably even beyond that.
Yes.
And just to talk about time, we have
Yes.
about 8 n to 9 minutes to do this.
Okay. Universe can do this in light speed.
Woo-hoo!
So just know that whenever you find this particular interview and you listen to it, transmissions are not bound by time. Energy is not bound by time. So when you receive this is exactly the perfect divine order and timing that you are needing this transmission. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a pretty quick grounding just to drop in. So I'm just going to guide everyone to just take a deep breath and close your eyes. And with every breath in, you're breathing in pure white light. And with every exhale, you're sending that breath down through your energy center to the center of the body. out the tailbone, out the feet, into the earth, growing roots. So with every in-breath, beautiful white light. As you exhale, let that breath flow down the body, out the tailbone, out the feet, turning into roots, and let every single breath ground you with every exhale. And with every inhale, you're bringing in higher frequency light. So know that that's another tool you can program your breath. Your inhale is one thing, your exhale means something else. So we're just programming the breath right now. Inhale, white light, raising your frequency. As you exhale, you're bringing that light out, down the chakras, cleansing, clearing, growing roots into the earth. And so the message I'm getting right now for everyone is, if you're guided, placing one hand on the heart and the other hand below the belly button on your womb space or your lower dantian. And for this moment, just notice the breath as you breathe. And this is bringing you into awareness in your body. So I'm going to give you some words to say out loud. And this is going to ground you in even more. And this is another tool you can use. So all these bits and pieces of this process you can use as a tool. So you can say out loud, I am here now in a body on this earth by choice and by love.
In my choice and in my love.
And then you would say it 3 times. I am here now in a body
in my body
on this earth
by
choice and by love.
By choice and by love.
And then one last time with a long, deep breath. I am here now in a body on this earth by choice and by love.
By choice and by love.
And of course, you can repeat this as many times as you need to feel your body start to relax. You start to feel the shoulders drop. You begin to feel yourself kind of dropping, feeling the body get heavier. Okay, so what this is doing is bringing you into the body so that these light codes can come in and anchor into the body because you're anchored in the physical. So I'm going to now listen to what the guides have to say and bring in the messages, the channeled messages around this topic of transformation, living a transformational life that they want to share with you. And within these words are the codes. So your job is just to receive, just relax, open, receive. And you don't need to think. So I usually ask my clients, allow your mind to sit in a recliner behind you and just watch the whole thing and not let the mind get involved. So the first message that the guides are bringing in with light codes, so they're showing me all of these almost like droplets of light coming into the entire field of everyone who's listening right now. You may visualize it a different way, and that's perfect. But what they're saying is that they're bringing in a very powerful gift of grace to everyone today who's listening. All of you out there who know it is time to transform your life. It is time to step into your courage. It is time to step into the new life that you know you were created for. That true higher soul calling, soul purpose, soul expression that you are here to give to the world. Because right now, our world deeply needs your higher calling, your higher soul calling, whatever that may be for each of you. And so the guides are bringing in particular light codes right now to assist you. They're showing me a lot of work being done in the solar plexus and in the lower chakras, the second and the first. So from the third, second, and first chakras, I'm seeing lots of energy movement happening right now. So if you're willing to start releasing and clearing the blockages of I can't, I won't, I don't want to, I'm in fear, I doubt, I'm worried, all of those things that stop and block you from stepping into your powerful transformational life that you're being called to right now, in whatever way that looks for each person. Each person's going to be very different. But all the ways that you're blocking with those lower, let's say, human ego type of thoughts and beliefs that block you. I can't do it. This is why, making excuses. They're saying all this is stuck specifically in the solar plexus. And then I'm seeing a couple of more blockages in the second and the first chakras or energy centers, because this is where we make manifest. These lower chakras help us to manifest in the world, physical a physical life. And so they're saying this is where we're needing to work in the solar plexus. So if you're giving permission right now, so you can just say yes in your heart, and your higher guides and your higher beings of light are here right now working on the solar plexus area where you're in resistance, where you are in some way making excuses, where you are somewhere caught up in giving your power over to fear instead of love, giving your power over to worry and doubt instead of the truth of you as a sovereign being on this planet who's been given everything you need to create that life that's going to bring you more freedom, more joy, more lightness, more abundance. And we're all being called in that direction, every single one of us. But it's going to require us, the guides are saying, to clear out all of these blockages in the lower chakras that keep us from manifesting what we truly desire and want, because we're actually in resistance to what we want. We say we want it, but then we resist it by conscious, unconscious, subconscious programming within us. So the guides right now are saying, we could go into all this detail, which we don't have time for. So if you say yes, they're just going to go in and start kind of digging into your solar plexus, the second and the first chakras, and start they're showing me like with a shovel digging out all of this heavy density you've created. Some of this is programmed into you by your family system. So be very clear. The guides are saying none of this is your fault. They really want every single beautiful soul who's listening. This is not your fault. Much of this is programming. Much of this is imprint that is being given to us, passed down to us from our family systems, generations, from the programming that is out in the world right now in all forms. And that it's really for us to not go into this blaming of ourselves, but instead say, okay, that is what it is. I see that. I am aware of that. I see how I block myself. I see how I have certain attitudes that make me resist life or a bigger life, a life that I truly want. I notice how I work against myself and I self-sabotage. I'm aware of that. So being in that awareness and then calling in, I invoke grace to come in and assist me to release and clear out. So right now we're bringing in codes, light codes of grace to come into these places and spaces that you may be aware of, that you may not be aware of, that may be so unconscious or subconscious that you can't even bring them up in your mind. That is what these beautiful light codes are doing. They're coming into these deep places and bringing them up to the surface so that you can see them. That's what transformation is all about. You see it, and you decide you want something different, so you transform it. You make a different decision. So the guides are saying that they're going to continue this transformative energy flow through your whole system, specifically the lower chakras. And they're going to continue that in your field if you give permission. So even after we have completed with this interview, just know that that energy is going to keep moving for you if you allow it. So they can keep clearing out the blockages that keep you from really stepping into transforming your life in a way that's going to bring you the greatest happiness, the greatest joy, the greatest abundance, the greatest bliss in this lifetime. So if you let it flow, then great. The guides will continue to work with you to assist you with that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down, sealing everybody in love and light, knowing that the energies are going to keep moving for you. And your job is to stay conscious of that. And as things come up to be looked at, saying yes is part of the transformation. Okay, coming back in and grounding in, allowing yourself to be present here now. And hopefully that will support those who are ready to step into their transformational life.
Wow, that was wonderful.
One of my fastest transmissions.
I know. I tell you, I don't know if you were watching the clock, but you were perfect. It's amazing. And Linda does all of this type of work. She's available for individual sessions, but also she does classes over the net and is really readily available. And she has a beautiful website that you can get to know her even more, so you can get a better idea of what she has to offer. Also, she sells some beautiful jewelry on her site that she makes herself, and she's been doing that for,
oh my gosh, almost 20 years.
yeah, at least. I thought she might have been doing it as a child or something, because it's always so good. It's really wonderful. So all of that's there. Just check her out at lindagalvan.com. And thank you so much for being on the program today, Linda. It's such a pleasure, as I knew it would be. I knew this day would just really kick, So what a journey we've got to have today.
Yes, thank
Uh,
you so much, Bart, for inviting me and for you being the beautiful transformational soul that you are, giving your light in the world and your beautiful healing tools in the world, and then bringing others on to come together with you in co-creation. So thank
well,
you for that.
thank you. And thank you for everybody for going to Becoming Quantum Consciousness at the National Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We thank you for coming and hope to see you next week. Many blessings to all, and bye bye for now.
Yes, blessings.